Hello and welcome to So Farscape,
a fun-filled Farscape fancast by a fervent fan
and a frankly fascinated first-timer.
I'm Kaki.
I'm Kay.
And this is the story So Farscape.
Ooh, we have another fun-filled Farscape episode.
Well, yes.
Oh.
Yes. I'm really in the mood now because we actually sort of figured out our little soundboard on the new recorder, and so we were able to listen to our friend Lee. That's Lee Wright Songs. Excellent theme song. So we actually sort of really got to pump ourselves up this time.
Yes, rather than having to edit it in post.
It's going to be so nice.
Yes.
But so your tone was a little bit doubtful about whether this is fun-filled. What's the deal?
The episode had a bit of a downturn towards the end. Let me put it like that.
You know, that is fair to say, because this week we're talking about Season 3, Episode 10, Relativity.
Yes.
It sounded like a Jeopardy sort of category.
Yes.
It's all relative.
And it took me way too long to figure out what it was about. That relativity was... nothing to do with spatial relativity.
It's a rather cunning one. It was written by Rockne S. O'Bannon.
No, himself.
Yep, I think it's fair to credit him as the creator of
that's how he's credited in the credits.
Exactly.
Like, created by Rockne S. O'Bannon.
And then further developed by David S. Kemper and executive produced by people like Ricky Manning. But yeah, I think this is the first since Season 1 that he's written. Actually, I've got my hand-in database here. I can just look that up. Let me see. It's directed by Peter Andrikidis, who has directed The Flax and Different Destinations.
Yeah.
And Rockne O'Bannon... Oh, yes. No, he has done in Season 2 as well. He did The Premiere, A Bug's Life, and Dream a Little Dream.
Oh, yes.
A Bug's Life with the intelligent
virus.
virus.
A little dream to me.
Hey, that's really like relationship-heavy episodes, like very tightly about examining these characters' relationship, which is especially apt for Relativity because as our listeners have contributed, thank you so much. I called for, I begged for more synopses for Season 3, and people have shown up. We are so grateful to
this is going to take a while to read them all.
They're great.
So let's get going. It's like, if you like pina coladas and getting caught in a swamp.
If you like pina colada.
Yes.
Getting caught in a swamp.
The song's actually called Escape, and although it's generally referred to as the Pina Colada song.
It's always in parentheses.
Yes. So Rigel really opens up to a woman despite her apparent drug problem and a trail of broken-hearted mercenaries, while the rest of the crew work through trust issues during a high-stakes game of hide-and-seek. Thank you, Jenna.
It's really good.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I've got to read these in the right order. There's one by Test Monkeys. Yes, okay. Here's the order that they need to go in because somebody sent in an addendum, which is an unconventional move.
Yes.
Inhumanoids decompose, doesn't care much for gravity. Inhumanoids decompose with an apostrophe, doesn't care much for gravity. Mrs. Doubtfire attempt a dangerous drive-by fruiting, and a family reunion doesn't go as expected. Thanks to Tis I, Test Monkey 6K, aka Brian Ivanhoe. Blah.
Okay.
So that person... I think Brian may have, been celebrating on some adult beverages when he wrote this in.
Yes.
There's a lot of attitude there, but then his sort of cool, haha, how do you like that? Was followed up by an addendum, which is, and the crew lay forest traps that would make an Ewok blush. Thank you, Test Monkey 6K.
Oh, yes, I see that. Let's see. After fleeing Hoth, Luke has landed on Dagobah and has gotten his ship stuck. No, wrong show. Wesley and Buttercup seek refuge from the six-fingered man in the fire swamp. No, that's not it either. If you like pina coladas, anyway, the crew celebrates Mother's Day with a festive spray-painted ropes, acid pumpkins, smelly loop parties, and bondage. Thank you, Horsebird.
This is fantastic. And we got one more from Lucy. The crew visit the butthole of the universe. Someone at castration level is cranky from having their sleep disturbed by some randy teenagers in the neighboring bunk. Paradise is rudely interrupted by a long-lost family member, and pina coladas have a nasty bite. Thank you, Lucy.
Well, yeah, it's like there's an awful lot of emphasis on pina coladas, which were just like another throwaway comment from John. But,
yes.
Yeah.
In hindsight, that should have been our little podcasting companion beverage.
Pina coladas.
Yeah, right? That would have been seasonal.
That's coconut, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's some cream component to it.
Yeah, okay. I tend to pride myself on mixing a decent cocktail, but I can't for the life of me remember the ingredients for a pina colada without looking them up. I think it's pineapple juice and rum.
That does sound good.
Yeah.
Well, maybe when this episode comes out, we can celebrate its airing.
Oh, that sounds like a good plan.
But in the meantime, hey, Kay, should we get started with the episode?
Yes.
Great, because then I can use this button.
Yes, push the button. So we open up with a long recap, actually. I thought that was interesting. It's like last time, it wasn't even a last time on Farscape, it was a previously on Farscape, and it did a fairly comprehensive wrap-up of important parts that you needed to know for this episode.
Yeah, of catching up the sort of path that led to Talon's situation, because this season's branching off in two directions. Mm. Yes, I gave you a little spoiler about that, because this last time mentioning that last episode, Losing Time, was a green tea episode, and now it's a black tea episode, because it's black t-shirted John that's on Talon.
Yeah.
And their plot is Talon, Crace, Aaron, and the Peacekeeper Retrieval Squad.
And Rigel and...
Yeah. So we learned a lot about that in this episode. So it really makes sense to start off with this great recap. Your boyfriend joined us once again. He has had a strange track record of the episodes of Farscape that he's seen. I think didn't he drop in with Crackers Don't Matter or Out of Their Minds? I think that was the first time.
Yes.
So his first introduction to these characters was when they were body swapping with each other.
Right, and then he watched the second one of Look at the Princess, I think.
Yes, not the first or third, so...
So yes, he seemed like, every few episodes he joins us for the watching before we do the recording. And he's had a very mixed bag of episodes that he's watched.
Yeah, he sort of exclaimed after this one finished, oh wow, so it is a normal... They actually do normal stories as well.
This was actually it almost looked like a regular sci-fi show this time round.
He was so excited. Because yes, thanks to this recap, he could actually get it.
Yeah.
Crace being injured and Talon being injured and being found by the Moyans. Some of them stay behind after Erin's discovery of her mother's involvement in the retrieval squad.
Yes, that's her mother's leading the retrieval squad. And we had another little recap of the video that Crace showed her with her mother coming to her and professing the fact that she is a love child, basically.
Yeah.
And not a procedural child or whatever they want to call it.
Yeah, a scheduled or an assigned birthing to fill the ranks.
Yes.
Which, Ugh. And then the episode starts with a long shot through this fantastic jungle.
It's not the word I would have picked, but
really?
I would have called it a soundstage jungle, but...
Yes, okay.
I mean, they didn't even bother to... do something with the floor. You can in places you can tell it was just a flat concrete floor with some wood chips sprinkled on it.
They put some wood chips down. That counts as something. So this is fast turnaround television, right? They've got to build all this and film the episode and then be done in 8 days.
Yeah.
And then move on to the next one that's already being built during each of these episodes was usually filmed in the middle of the cacophony of drilling and hammering from the next sound.
Right.
Because they're not sound stages, they're warehouses. So sound stages are sound isolated for that reason. But this part, at least, is CGI. So we see lots of vines and we see reptile birds flying around, and then we see Talon resting amid this junk.
That immediately had me going okay, like we're seeing a new thing in which Talon is apparently more capable than the average Leviathan.
Yes.
Although we have seen Moya also land on the planet, it seems to be a very unusual thing because, as we learn right at the beginning of the first season, I think it's the third episode where they beach her. It's like Little House on the Percy's Arm, I believe we called the episode.
Oh yes, that's right. I think that's the second episode. In the proper airing, IET.
We are told that Leviathans don't land. They just sometimes when they're youthful and brash, they see how far they can skim down the atmosphere.
I'm really impressed with you. I'm going to put in a clip of pilots saying exactly that. Yeah, like young Leviathans, they play with the gravity well, but they never land.
When Leviathans are young, they often play with the planet's gravity. See how close they can come.
Yes, exactly. But no, he has landed on this planet, which apparently is also a high-gravity planet.
Yes.
It's kind of mentioned.
Which helps him sleep.
Right.
So I guess it's like a weighted blanket.
Oh, that makes sense, yeah.
Right? It's sort of swaddling, it's comforting. Also, I imagine that I saw that in The Expanse, that trauma, injury treatment in zero gravity is very difficult because wounds don't drain.
Oh, yes, I can see that, yeah.
Right? And so you've got all this coagulation through the body and wounds need to drain. Then again, Leviathans are a zero gravity species.
Yes, so you'd think that Leviathans are able to deal with that sort of thing. Yeah, that's not a problem for them. But yes, apparently now he's dormant. He's gone to sleep. They've put him to sleep, and he is healing amongst the vines. The healing vines, as they're actually called.
Yeah, whatever this is. And Yes, indeed. They are just ropes spray-painted blue. That was apparently a health and safety issue. Apparently, like, there were some maybe they tried some latex alternatives, but that was considered unsafe working conditions, and it wasn't possible to make safe ones quickly, I guess.
I also noticed that they cleverly didn't show the ceiling where these vines were coming in through.
Yeah, but I kind of dig that because they spent the money on this opening shot. Like, that is really detailed and difficult to do CGI with lots of vines and just sort of sell it.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of philosophy that Peter Jackson had with the Lord of the Rings films.
Yeah.
That in each of those films, somewhere near the start, there's an incredibly complicated sequence selling the size difference.
Yeah.
It's Gandalf visiting Bilbo in his house, and it's a long shot. It's incredibly complicated. Or Merry and Pippin dancing on the table. And then after that, you can coast because you've established it.
Right. And people remember the first, being wowed by the first shot, and anything later they see that confirms it is just gravy.
Yeah, Doctor Who does it as well, because then you've got them on board, you start with that, and then afterwards, it's just spray-painted ropes.
I notice you have a little bit of problem with your costume falling apart. You have like a wardrobe malfunction there.
Yes, okay, just a little bit behind the scenes that Kay mentioned to some of our beloved listeners that he is in fact the owner of leather pants after that was mentioned in a previous episode, and then he, fool that you are,
yes,
promised, I'll do the next episode recording in leathers.
Figuring that nobody's going to be able to see, so it's an easy boast to make. You, however, decided to hold me to it, and like in support, decided to wear
my garbage Alibaba really cheap lederhosen, because I don't actually own a magnificent pair of leathers like you do, so solidarity among podcasts.
I can confirm that I am wearing my Peacekeeper pants, I suppose.
Actually, that is a very good point. They really do sort of...
They kind of work. Unfortunately, my leather jacket isn't really a good Peacekeeper jacket, but, you know...
Well, maybe we'll find you one. The world of cosplay is massive. So if you hear any squeaking during this episode, that is Kay.
So, yes, we get on
Speaking
board.
of squeaking.
Oh, yes. Once we're done with the recap, and we have Crace gloomily staring out the window at the forest.
Yeah, it's a weird shot to open with. He's just sort of glaring there, and then we follow Stark, who is singing a little song as he...
And Stark is stalking over towards Rigel to go annoy him.
Come on, 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 Rigel! I may be small, but allow me to remind you, that only serves to put me at castration level.
What's the matter? Didn't sleep well?
How could I, with them on the other side of this very thin bulkhead?
Bit noisy, were they?
She was bad enough, but Crichton... he was louder than she was. He actually sounded like he was exerting himself. What kind of a male is he anyway?
Rigel is plenty annoyed already. He is exhausted, not having had a lot of sleep because he is kept awake by these rowdy teenagers on the other side of this very thin wall.
Who've been recreating extensively, so...
We cut to the other side of the wall, a much nicer room. It's all red, and there's guns and pants and an underwear strewn around.
Reminded me a little bit of that scene from Police Academy when, what's-his-face, the gun nut finally gets into bed with someone, and it takes about a few minutes to take all the various firearms out of his clothes while they're undressing.
No Calvin Kleins on the floor, I noticed.
Oh, I guess they've worn out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're like several years in at this point. Like, he's like...
I think that's fair.
Yeah, the underwear, you got to replace it at some point.
Yeah, but especially a soldier like Erin would take good care of her equipment, I'm sure.
Of course, yes. So, yes, John deliberately goes on banging to annoy Rigel a little bit more.
Rigel had some fun hyper-sexist comments about it as well, that she was bad enough, but he was even louder. He sounded like he was exerting himself.
What kind of male is he? Yes.
Then again, he's not a body breeder.
No, I suppose not.
Like, his experience is probably... I have no idea what to do. Does he just sort of swim over and spawn
I suppose. And I guess he's like, being royalty is used to be aided in that by his women.
Now I'm imagining the scene from Coming to America, except a lady Hynerian comes up out of the water with her nose... The
spawning is done.
The royal Mivonks are clean. That would have been so good if I could actually say it. Okay.
They're doing a little bit more of pre-recreation, I suppose.
Yeah, they're sort of considering their next, we should actually get some sleep now. Yeah, but how long are we going to be on this planet for?
Immediately, bliss is
Shattered.
That's a great word, thank you. Because they detect an incoming ship. It's like, friend or foe?
Of course it's a foe! We have no friends!
Realpolitik there.
It's a really tricky situation because Talon is asleep.
Yeah.
And it'll take him a while to heal. That was a risk that they all took. And so what are we going to do? Also, it's just occurred to me that Aaron and John are sort of teenagers necking in her bedroom.
Yes.
And, oh, shit, Mom's come.
Yeah.
Mom's here.
That is a very good point,
Right.
yes. Mom has
We've
arrived.
detected Mom's minivan. They're coming in the driveway. Oh, crikey, what are we going to do?
And we see Mom, in fact, coming out of a prowler with 2 aliens. 3, actually.
3 to start
Yes,
with.
3 to start with. We have some gorgeous, long-headed aliens. I noticed they have a little favoury for that. We got the Skeksis-like ones. We have the whatchamacallit, the other reptilian aliens, also long faces.
The Scarans,
yes, that's the one. And now these guys, what are they called?
The Collartas.
Collartes. Apparently another subversian species, or at least a species which is indebted to the peacekeepers.
Yeah. So it's an interesting structure they've got. They're alternately called mercenaries, but they're also enslaved.
Yes.
And as it's explained, the deal is they've got to complete 9 missions for the peacekeepers successfully. And if any of them mess up, the counter resets to 0.
Yeah,
so it's going to be 9 in sequence.
That seems pretty harsh.
Peacekeepers for you, hey?
Yeah, fair point.
The one that she walks out with, she asks how's his wound, and he complains about the high gravity on this planet.
Yes, apparently 2.5 times what they're used to on his planet. So I'm sitting here doing the math on that. If it's 2.5 times their usual planet, it's going to be, either their usual planet is like under half.
Considering the height, that seems... Yeah.
Or everybody else here should be like significantly affected by high gravity as well.
I mean, it could be... We just don't know what's normal to them.
No. If 1 is normal for humans, like if they're used to 0.8, then it would still be almost 2 for humans to get to, that's what I'm saying. So then it would be...
Yeah.
So in order for it to be kind of close to normal for the Spatianoids, their native gravity would have to be something less than half. Which at that point it doesn't really matter because then it would be kind of normal for them to be at that high gravity, even if this is slightly elevated gravity. I'm nitpicking here, but
I'm thinking about it as well. But also think about what is optimum shipboard gravity, because they can change that. So if you're a peacekeeper, right, and you're running a ship and you're trying to train your soldiers, some of them are pilots, some of them are ground troops.
Yeah.
Well, how do you set the gravity on your ship?
High.
Right.
Yeah, because both pilots and ground troops benefit from exercising in high gravity.
Yeah. So that makes sense. On Moya was initially under peacekeeper control.
Yeah.
So they'd have the gravity set. So maybe they've all got their gravity just set to like Earth and a half to begin with. Like, you can adapt to that, right?
You'd think so. I mean, I don't know, but it seems reasonable.
It'd be an exhausting first year, but...
But it'd make you stronger. But yeah, I also noticed there weren't any special effects implying that there was higher gravity. It just gets mentioned as a bit of a throwaway comment.
Yes, because it specifically affects the Collartas, the Pina Coladas, and nobody else. This one insists that he's still mission capable, but Zalex doesn't buy it, shoots him in the chest, and informs the other 2.
Good news. Your shares have just increased.
Yes, I suppose that they get shares despite the fact that they're indentured to the peacekeepers.
That was the thing. After 9 missions, you can buy your freedom. So they're making money.
Oh, that's it.
But with that, they can buy their freedom, but they can't do that before they've done 9 in a row.
Right. So, yes, they are now on a prowler. They landed not too close to Talon, as we learn, but they are approaching and they will be coming.
Yes, so the team splits up, much to Krasis' consternation. Stark and Rigel are left behind on Talon. He says, I'm the logical choice, but...
Rigel gets told off for going through Aaron's stuff. We get another view of the video where she was being visited by her mother.
Yes, very good.
And John spends some significant amount of time telling Rigel to keep his paws to himself and don't go through Aaron's stuff. He's not so concerned about his own stuff, I suppose. Most of their stuff is on Moya.
I don't know which room this is in, because it sort of looks like Krasis' boudoir.
Right.
But...
it's not command.
Exactly. It's got these sort of PK stations there as well. Actually, I think this might be Rigel's bedroom, But why they're walking into Rigel's bedroom, I don't know. This seems a weird room that they just sort of happen to be in. But maybe we can be corrected on that. So the idea is that Aaron, Crace, and John will go out and meet these peacekeepers, try and slow them down or distract them.
Yeah.
And lead them away from Talon so that he can finish healing, and then they can sneak away.
Decoys! This is an awfully big ship. You really think the three of you...
Stark, if you have any other ideas, we'll be thrilled to hear them before we go out.
So we are on the first of many shots made in the same little bit of scenery from different angles, where people are like walking through the aforementioned dangling ropes.
Yep. Look, it's a soundstage a jungle. I thought it was great.
It was
honestly
fairly well done.
I mean, there's an extended chase sequence. Actually, this also goes for like the corridors on Talon.
Now those I liked. Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of those. I mean, that's probably also like 5-6 sections of corridor that they put in different configurations.
If that, yes.
And filmed this walk and talk in several segments. And it was really well done. Good job, Peter Andrikidis, if I'm saying that right. So excellent use is being made of... I'm sorry, no, you can have your own opinion about the jungle if you like, but I'm just going to be super into it. They discover some properties of this planet. There's a fruit that falls from a branch and that sizzles on the ground.
Yeah, it looks to be some sort of acid. So, avoid those. And there's like steam vents or like sulfurous steam vents, I suppose.
Old Faithful that apparently smells like farts.
What does he call them?
Okay, welcome to the butthole of the universe.
Butthole of the universe.
Yeah. I mean, surely there must be worse places than that, but, you know...
I wonder what it smells... I mean, you can have olfactory fatigue for any scent other than sulfur. Right?
Really?
So apparently, like I learned this that humans are capable of just getting used to any scent.
Yeah.
So you're completely immune to your own body scent.
I thought sulfur was one of them as well. Because I thought that the rotten egg smell, basically, that you get from some sort of sulfur compound can become lethal very quickly because, in fact, your nose becomes dead to it, and you don't smell it anymore, and therefore you're still being slowly poisoned or quickly poisoned if you're unlucky.
Okay, welcome to the butthole of the universe.
So during this walk and talk, the two crews, so the Moyen and the Retrieval Squad, deliver a lot of the exposition that we've just talked about. Oh yeah, there was an interesting bit where Xalax asks one of the Calartas, I think they're called Vec and Kek, if he has a mate, an offspring.
Right.
And then he says yes. And then she said, well, then you and your mate here will be very...
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
You have a mate? Offspring?
Yes.
Nice. It'd be a frelling shame if you and your mate here screwed up and you were to start your mission count back at 0.
I mean, she probably means pal, because they don't...
Right,
sort of-
maybe Australian mate.
Exactly, but it's weird to use those in the same sentence.
Yes, it is.
Then again, hey...
I mean, I actually noticed that they have another, like, a pair of alien trackers, like, kind of like mirroring back to the other ones we had.
That's exactly what I was going to say. One of our listeners pointed that out. Kay, you're really astute here, because it's even to the point where one of them does the tracking.
It seems smelling is a female's job.
Oh, Frel.
Is it? I
Yes.
thought oh, okay.
So one of them later on has one of their hearts bursts. They have multiple, and no, I won't slow you down, but I can still track. And the other one keeps asking him. I don't even know which pronouns is appropriate, but keeps asking
them.
him. Yeah, them actually. Yeah, let's do that. Keeps asking them where they are.
Yeah, do we know
to do all the tracking?
Right, interesting. I hadn't caught on to that. I thought it
Much
was
like Rorf and Rorg.
Right, I thought they were more like confirming, like, can you still smell them? But it might be, we can go with your headcanon.
Thank you. Back on the ship, there's also an interesting situation, which is Rigel and Stark discover that the corridors are now riddled with these vines.
They're fast growing.
Yeah.
It's like if they hadn't noticed this last time they walked through and suddenly it's covered. There's also mention of a hull breach at some point where they're apparently coming in through, which is then later conveniently ignored after Talon is healing.
Yeah, or after that set couldn't be built on time, or who knows. So the restorative vines are actually growing through him, which...
Much to Rigel's disconcertment.
Yeah, he thinks that it's not going to be a problem. Talon's going to be able to rip free once he's awake. But Stark is concerned that they're anchoring him to the planet.
Right.
And wants to help little Talon as much as they can.
He starts furiously chopping away at vines, trying to cut them away. I notice that Stark seems to be a lot less effective since Zahn's demise.
Yeah, I see what you... Well, actually, how do you see that?
I mean, he seems to be a lot more in his manic weird phase rather than in his composed, talking like a normal person phase, which he did for a while.
Right.
It might have been Zahn's calming influence, or it might just be something that he goes through. But yeah, he seems
Maybe
to be
he's
a lot.
pretending to be normal to impress his girlfriend.
But he also went like on a complete journey to find Jothi, I believe. Yes, and then when he came back from that, he was acting and talking like a normal person who wasn't encumbered with weird mental flashbacks about people dying and stuff like that. You know, he seemed to be a lot more composed. Then let me put
When
it
he
like
was
that.
explaining the plan, he was a bit, and then
Right.
we're on a silent count.
I told you we'll all be on a silent count for the entire battle.
A silent count while we're fighting?
Yes, it's easy.
Well, yes, he always had a little bit of that. But
Yes, I'm sorry. That's just what I happen to remember.
Right.
I'm
No,
really
fair
into
enough.
it.
Fair enough.
I do see what you mean. He's a much more clownish character. He comes in singing. There's mention that he hums when he's nervous, and Rigel hiccups when he's nervous.
Farts when he's nervous, like.
Okay, so maybe this is what's happening. Like every season, they do some sort of pairings with characters.
Yeah.
Like in season 2, it was Rigel and Chiana. Mm-hmm. Right? They'd be paired up as.
Yeah.
And here, so
Like
now
little
that
partners in crime, stealing shit.
Yeah. And now that Rigel's being paired with Stark, I'm getting real Laurel and Hardy vibes between them.
I can see where you're coming from.
Right? Although I don't quite know which one considers themselves Laurel and which one considers themselves Hardy, but...
They probably both consider themselves to be Hardy.
Yeah, everybody does. Until they actually look in the mirror and realize, oh shit, no, I'm the weirdo, aren't I?
It's the classic straight men and comedian, I suppose. What's the...
Well, I mean, the comic and the straight man or the foil.
Right, yes.
But anyway, hey, shit is about to come down because the retrieval squad are very good at their job.
Yes, the trackers find them without fail, and a firefight ensues in the jungle.
Now, I thought this was very interesting because our heroes, who've been leading who've been trying to attract attention, firing their pulse pistols and yelling, unaware that they are being ambushed. Erin is a little bit suspicious, but we focus on Xalax, who's got them in her sights. And what do you think is going through her head here? Because she seems to wait an awful long time. And the countershot is on Erin, not on Grace, who's her secondary target.
Huh. I mean, you're alluding to the fact that she knows that it's her daughter and she's like making up her mind, deciding what she's going to do and how she's going to go ahead with it.
I'm not but I'm not sold on that.
Yeah.
But I could go either way on it.
I mean, how much do we know that she knows about... No, because she doesn't know that it's her.
That's what's been established, or at least that's what she says. But I'm inclined to agree.
Yeah, it's later on in the episode. It's established that she doesn't know that it is her daughter that she's talking to, that she's dealing with. I should say. So,
but there's the trope, which has a lot of basis in reality, that a mother recognizes her child. I mean, even to the point where I've understood from Muslim friends that the description of paradise in the Quran is that it's a physical place where you get a new body there and you wake up with no memories. And like the idea is that paradise is just another world with no want. And so you get to meet all your favorite people again, and enemies as well, without any baggage because you don't know each other. But only your mother recognizes you.
Oh.
She can choose not to let on or whatever. Like you get a new body, you get a new face, everybody's new to each other, but your mother knows you.
Oh, okay. So your mother knows who their kids are, and that's the only thing.
And I think it's really beautiful, and it's such a, the mama lion kind of vibe here that maybe she sees this other peacekeeper and some instinctual
thing. I mean, there's like they did pick actors who have at least a passing resemblance
in their accent as well. Linda Cropper is the actress who plays Xalax, and they are just electric together.
Right, but I mean, you told me that Claudia Black kind of picked a weird accent to like make the peacekeeper accent, and then everybody
has
held to
a weird accent. That's her.
Right.
That's not fair, but like she grew up in Australia and the UK, and so she has a very particular
bit of both.
Like I noticed it when she says alive. It's not alive, it's alive.
He is alive.
It's actually like it's half Australian, but it's much closer to the au diphthong that we have in the Netherlands. Alive.
Right, yes. Right? I noticed that Lani Tupu at one point also kind of slipped into his... In one of the scenes, he's just like, oh, okay, yeah, he's a Kiwi.
How are you going to get off this planet without me? And what if Aaron isn't back at Tellum when you get there? What are you going to do then?
Oh, I love seeing Lani Tupu.
So yeah, actually what I was looking at most in the scenes, like they were really not skimping on the pyrotechnics.
Right?
Yeah.
So for this jungle, they had brought in every special effects machine that they had. What we've got? 3 smoke machines. Yep, turn them all on. Crank them to max. Let's go. But they'll overheat and they'll pump out smoke. Great. Yeah. That's what we want.
Every piece of machinery is a smoke machine if you operate it wrong enough.
Because a firefight ensues, even though there is this moment of curious hesitation. Just as Erin realizes that something's wrong, she dives out of the way. Crace and John follow her.
Yep.
And that's the exact moment that Xalax and the 2 collatas open fire.
Right.
Fire's being exchanged. It sort of looked like Xalax was gun-shy. Do you know what I mean? Like she'd sort of squint her eyes before firing, like maybe the actress hadn't held a weapon before. But these are plastic props. They don't fire.
Generally speaking, not, no.
Right? They don't even have triggers. So you're supposed to just sort of...
It depends on if it's a hero prop or if it's just a...
No, none of them do.
Okay, fair enough.
None of them have any moving parts. They're all just cast.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I know that like sometimes like they use guns that fire blanks on set to get more realistic effects.
Yes, Battlestar Galactica, I think Space Above and Beyond.
And sometimes this goes horribly wrong. The Crow and like more recently...
Terrible tragedies of procedure that most of the times these procedures prevent that from happening, but especially on a set like this. But like, she's an Australian actress. Australia is, at least nowadays, not known for having a lot of guns.
No, they did a big thing where they like basically they had a school shooting. It wasn't a school shooting, but it was like kind of like a Dunblane type accident.
It was not an accident. The Port
Incident,
Arthur,
sorry, not accident.
Oh, thank you. The Port Arthur massacre, I think it was called.
And they more or less banned handguns, not quite as extensively as in the UK. You can still get firearms as a private person, but it's like it's much more the Dutch way where you have to. It's strictly regulated.
Yeah, I mean there is still marksmanship as a sport.
Yeah, but again, owning firearms for that is still. Probably almost more regulated than here in the Netherlands, which is one of the most strongly regulated countries in the world.
Yeah.
Japan is stricter, and that's about it, I believe.
How about Switzerland? I mean, Switzerland is an interesting thing where they still have mandatory military or civil service.
Basically, everybody has to take home their service rifle, but they keep the ammo at the range.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Like, there's no gun control, there's bullet control.
Yeah. Which seems reasonable.
Right? So, returning to this, it's an interesting discussion to have in the middle of a firefight.
Yeah.
I thought this firefight was great. Because the retrieval squad keeps up the pressure. We see our heroes backing away. They keep having to look behind them and then fire without looking because they've got to navigate. This was a slippery set.
I can imagine.
There was chunks of wood chips. There was ropes hanging around, especially for the collatas.
Yeah, as we noticed at one point, one of those vines hanging over its face, and clearly not noticing the fact. I guess the actor had no idea what was going on. And
they can see like through the chin,
down
about a meter in the neck piece. Which is why, you brought that up. Why the head has this extended part toward the back, because the face is all animatronics. They needed a counterweight.
Of course, yes,
to be able to carry that.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Thomas Holsgrove once again.
Yeah.
Who was also all the Scarons we've seen and Mordil.
So the party gets split. Basically, Crace and John are driven off one way, whereas Erin goes the other way, and she gets captured by her mother.
Move and you die.
Well, do we say yes? After her mother, you're right. Sorry, I was watching a GIF where Xalax gets shot in the leg. We don't really see who lands that shot.
Someone. Yeah.
This was a fun bit of irony because Linda Cropper had injured her knee the day before filming.
Oh, okay.
Wrong knee though.
Oh dear. Couldn't they have just like swapped the knees?
That was my question as well when I read this, but apparently it's in the script and the script is sacred, and apparently if you can't get a rewrite, then that's the knee that has to limp.
The text is sacred in making science fiction television, so that's why before every take we go over these fine details and make sure that everything is right. Crossing the T's, dotting the I's. Because God is in the detail.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean, fortunately, it's easy to fake a limp if you're already limping. But yes, Mum grabs her, she elbows the wounded knee and switches it around, and it ends up being the one capturing Mom.
Kick-ass fight. Like, you don't see women grappling often in these
not
kind
like
of series.
this, no. I mean, not unless you're watching Benny Hill videos, but...
Yikes. But this is a proper fight. Both of these actresses are going for it. Claudia Black is using the skills that she's learned over the course of this series. Like, we remember her first fight with Matala, the Scorpion, which... Wow. Okay, so you didn't have a fight choreographer, did you?
Clearly
Couldn't
not.
afford that.
No.
I thank you for the exercise.
But then she got a lot of advice from the chap who played Larac.
But I recognise the unkempt uniform and the undisciplined
Must have really offended you. And just think, how you're going to sit down and eat with one.
Yes.
And, in Bug's Life. Also written by Rockne S. O'Bannon. Where I think the other members of that team were, like, also squaddies. Right, they were ex-military, so they and they could like teach her these are some cool grapple.
You hit me.
No, a Pantac jab.
The tables have turned, and we fade to black with Xalax choking out Erin, but she flips her mother over and knocks her out. Now, I'm going to have a little trouble working out exactly in which scene what is said.
Fair point.
It's easy.
It's complicated.
So... how about we follow these threads again from here on out?
Okay.
Yeah?
Let's do that.
And I want to follow Erin and her mother because I think that's such a powerful thread in this episode because it's something that Farscape, for all of the wonderful things that it's famous for, including strong female characters, had not really done well in female relationships.
Yeah, fair point.
Something that Claudia Black often sort of complained about, that she wanted more scenes with like Chi or Zan when she was still part of the crew, because there's just no female friendships or relationships in general. And so to have an entire episode that is primarily about this complicated relationship between these two women is really fantastic. Because here's the summary. Xalax lives in Erin's memory as a hero, her mother that she only saw once. But for Xalax, that memory is kind of sour. Yes. Because her visits to Erin was actually discovered by High Command.
Right, and they made her repent for it by killing Talon, as in her father.
Her father.
Yeah. Her lover, but...
Erin's father.
Erin's father, yes.
You are pathetic. You are not my daughter.
I am. You made me very aware of that the night you came to me when I was a child, and you told me what you'd done. Which... may I remind you, was not regulation.
I never came to you. You only dreamt it.
Oh, well, for many cycles I believed that. But you see, I now have a vid recording which I would be happy to show you if you'd like to see it. Or are you ashamed of your sentiment?
Yes, I am, and I paid for it. My superior officers knew I visited you that night. They interrogated me, and I professed my attraction for a certain peacekeeper officer.
My father?
Yes. Talon. He was older than I was, no longer as effective in battle. But my superiors didn't want to lose me. So, they gave me a chance to redeem myself.
So that's the sort of situation where they're coming from, this conflict. Xalax has rejected that history, and even, I think, in a previous episode, Grace mentioned that this would be an opportunity for Xalax to...
redeem herself.
And it's really fascinating how this evolves, because... Xalax at first completely rejects Erin, completely rejects that sentimentality, but that's kind of knee-jerk. She's extremely wounded. She harbors a hope for her daughter, but she harbors a hope of sort of revalidating, what's it called, like redeeming Erin in the face of the peacekeepers.
Right. Do you think that's what's the case? Because, like, whenever it comes to bringing Erin back towards peacekeeper territory...
I'm taking off the straps of my lederhosen, by the way.
Yeah, like you've had so many wardrobe malfunctions so far that it's getting a bit... But she literally, like, says whenever it comes to taking her back, it's like, oh, you will be court-martialed and tried for high treason. So she doesn't seem to be very interested in redeeming her or even letting her escape.
So this was a passing mention later in their arc. And again, apologies for just not being able to keep it straight, but this was so intense. I kept very few notes on this because I was just riveted by this episode. I didn't remember this episode being so good.
Oh.
But yeah, she just said, I had hoped to bring you back and make a case for you.
I will take you back. Attempt to redeem you if it was possible. But your corruption is too advanced.
But I see now that your corruption has gone too far.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting that even as Xalax was sort of trying to meet Eren, she couldn't let go of being a peacekeeper.
A peacekeeper, no.
Versus Eren,
who at this point embraced it.
But she considers herself, she considers her rebelliousness, that she inherited that from her mother.
Mm-hmm.
Which is just incredible. I mean, it's
right.
not
interesting to see how it can go both ways. And
yeah.
Especially like Mom, who also had his rebellious nature, but then apparently swung around and came back and is now full peacekeeper.
Yep.
As opposed to Eren, who had the same rebelliousness, but is now completely
inspired by her.
Yeah.
She might otherwise have been much more like Lieutenant Teague or Braca, being a consummate peacekeeper.
On the other hand, she not really had the opportunity to make that redemption in the eyes of the peacekeeper, so to speak.
No, Crace did see to that, didn't
yes, quite.
Yeah.
I mean, like, the first season, she probably would have done that, given the chance, but, yeah, none of that.
You're right. Okay, this is actually an interesting thing. Okay, think about how this retrieval squad was sent out. Their primary mission was to retrieve Talon.
Yeah.
The secondary was to retrieve Crace.
Yes.
Because he's a captain.
Yeah.
And the information that he has cannot be allowed to
get away.
Run rampant.
No.
And, she does sort of boast that there is a legion of inquisitors waiting.
Captain Bylar Crace, or should I say, former Captain Crace. Do you have any idea how many inquisitors want you back in high command?
I can almost imagine a whole row of Scorpiuses standing there, like gleefully wringing their hands together at the opportunity.
With their various comfy chairs?
Yes. Even though I know that Scorpius is like a unique case, but still,
Right. And so those are the two targets, and then they specifically picked the mother of one of the escapees to do it.
Eren comments on that she expects that they thought that she might flinch at the fact that it's her mother.
Oh my God, my favorite Eren line.
I'm not flinching.
Yeah.
God, no, you're not!
The other plot is Crace and John making their way through the jungle.
Also really intense.
Yeah.
Now, this is sort of expanding on the relationship that they've had over many years by now. Antagonistic, but also, I mean, you remember at the end of season 1 when Crace had been captured. He'd come for asylum aboard Moya, and John sitting outside his cell and talking about you put me through hell, but I'm also desperate for just male human companionship, and you're the closest thing.
Yeah, I can get. So Crace gets injured, he gets shot, and John helps him to escape from the trackers, where we learn that they seem to be mostly tracking by scent, although they're also good at reading tracks, literal.
Yeah.
But John decides that, we have this acidic fruit here, so I'm just going to pour some of that juice into your wound, and I'm just sitting there that a lot of acids are also poisonous.
Yes. And also, is acid cauterization a thing?
I don't think so.
It's not, right?
No.
It can't. What is the value of it?
I don't know. It's like
heat cauterization.
It's also not a very good idea, generally speaking. But
apparently, it's still a practice. I was corrected on that by a listener that in certain circumstances, especially field medicine, but also in surgery, cautery.
It's like burning off small arteries to
prevent blood loss.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, a burn injury is bad, but blood loss is worse. So I really like their sort of dynamic as he's carrying injured Crace around. At one point, he stops him and turns around, and the first time that they did that, he twisted Lani very unfortunately, and he sort of yelped in pain. That was genuine, and that ruined that take. And then afterward, he insisted on doing that yelp.
If she's still alive. She is still alive.
I summoned a really fun yelp there.
Very good. They end up slathering themselves in some sort of smelly gel to hide from the trackers.
If this doesn't cover our scent, I'll kill it. I don't know what will. Come out.
This was so much fun. Here, smell this. It's awful. Oh yeah, and get it in your.
This is male. This is male bonding. It's like, here, smell my finger. It's like.
And slathering each other in KY.
Yeah,
he even says, "Don't forget your private parts."
Yes.
Which I know it sort of plays as a joke. That's actually really smart.
Yeah, I mean that's like. Yeah, if you know that you're being tracked by scent, that's like...
Yeah. I mean, as humans, we don't have specific scent glands, I don't think.
Pheromones,
we don't have...
no.
Pheromones aren't a property of our bodies, but And there are areas of your bodies where just the natural sort of chemistry of your body.
But yes, as he is like tending to a now unconscious Grace, we see Harvey poke up again.
Yes, who is apparently summoned by his subconscious.
Yes, and informs him that he's been missing something in Grace's behavior.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just, he's there for 15 seconds, is Harvey.
Right, yeah, he comments on that, like, his stick is not pokey enough, and then he tells him, like, yeah, you've been missing something about Grace's, and that, in fact, he has been using you.
What did you think of this? How did this sort of slot in together for you?
I thought it was a really great way of maybe not introducing a plot point, but, like, spelling it out by having Harvey as John's subconscious. I mean, we know that he is a construct which was placed there by Scorpius, but we don't. I mean, he should
initially
be gone
with his own sort of processing substrate,
right? Who should be gone, but apparently isn't. So it's still kind of up in the air as far as I'm concerned, whether or not it's just like John's trauma manifesting itself like that, or if it's actually still something left over.
Oh, that's horrifying to think about. Actually, my question was actually much more about Grace. So the revelation that we get about Grace's motivation, and I'm interested in how that sort of compares to your sort of projection, because during season 2, you imagined that Grace would return with a new crew, that's his thing. And here, it's very sort of explicitly stated that Grace didn't choose to bind with Talon just so he'd have a gunship. He bonded with Talon to make the Moyans help him.
Right, yes. Well, we get the information that he is now wanted. Much more so than any other escaped peacekeeper would be.
Because he's a captain.
Because he's a captain.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's kind of been like manipulating towards that, I really don't see it that way, because what else could he do? I mean, he could have like gone off without Talon, but there's no advantage to that.
Well, here's what I mean. With your various bets that you spent your fun bucks on, you had this idea that what he wanted was power. Right, to have this powerful ship, and then it can go out and like acquire a new crew and whatever, which all didn't wind up happening.
No.
And the way he says it, when I escaped, I used all my assets, which was you, as if he really doesn't have anything. There's no help for him better than the Moyans. They're the only ones that he can turn to his hand, which is incredibly lonely.
Right, but the point I'm trying to make is he doesn't have anybody he can turn to other than them.
Exactly.
But he has the option, go away with Talon or go away without Talon. And it seems to make no sense to go away without Talon. So even if the Moyans weren't connected to Talon, he would still pick to go with Talon because he would still have a gunship rather than have nothing. So that's what
he would, but what the point that the sort of counterpoint that we're arguing around the same thing. Like it's certainly not an argument. I think that if there was a better way to get the Moyans to help him than by bonding with Talon,
he would have picked that.
Right. Talon is the means, and their help is the end. I'm saying this because it's also occurring to me now. I haven't rewatched this episode in a very long time. I hadn't realized this about him, that Talon was a means to an end, and the end was getting Crichton and Aaron to help him stay alive.
Yeah. He might have not realized it at that point.
That's also a really...
Because the altruism and the family connection seems to be fairly alien to him. His brother's dead. His dad might also be dead. We don't know.
I mean, he did grow up on a farming commune, as he mentioned. And it's...
But the whole concept that they would be so connected to Talon through Moya, it might not have occurred to him, unless he's a study of human character in a way that he never really seems to be.
That's interesting. Yeah, I wonder at which point
might something he cottoned onto that later.
Yeah.
Like, I still think he went with Talon because power,
the big gun.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep. Okay, so sort of staying with Grace and John sort of, now that he's got this realization thanks to Harvey, Grace wakes up tied up, spread-eagled.
Yes.
Woof. That spawned some fanfic, I'm sure. Because, I mean, Lani Tupu is also a gentleman who knows how to wear a pair of leather pants, much like Ben Browner and yourself, by the way.
Right, thank you.
It's a very good look. No squeaking, I've noticed.
No, I'm not moving around very much. So
did you pour a pint of talcum powder down the front before you sat down?
It's like I said, it's not bare leather. It's got a nice soft lining on the inside. So that's
excellent.
That makes it quite comfortable to wear, actually. And considering the fact that it's quite cold this time of year here. Not,
Yes, I'm regretting the lederhosen with my bare knees.
Yes,
one of which
your
I've
skinned knees.
recently skinned, like a proper sort of rambunctious teenager.
Youth, yes.
Okay, so
yes,
I'm
he wears
thinking
up.
warm thoughts because Crace wakes up with his arms and legs sort of tied down and Crichton taunting him and telling him all these revelations. Hey, you were just using us.
Yep. And
Right?
now I'm using you. Pour some water over him to wash away the smelly gel. And like,
Dinner is
"Ooh,
served."
yeah, come and get him. Because he knows, like now he knows that like they're after him as a captain apparently.
Yep.
And yep, come and get him. Which he, after another cutscene towards Moya for the other plot, let's just go with it.
Yeah,
gets
yeah, we're
resolved.
sticking with them.
Because once the trackers arrive and find Crace tied up like this, they both get jumped and stabbed by John.
Yes, I'd like that there was a moment of hesitation.
This could be a trap.
Yes, actually it is.
Yeah, very
going.
good. I felt bad for the Collatas. How about you?
Yeah, kind of. I mean,
Right?
they were just doing the job.
It's-
Indebted to the peacekeepers. They're just like...
It's an awful situation to be in. John throws a spear, takes one out. I think it's the one who had one burst heart already, so he only had one heart
Yes.
to aim for, and jumps the other, yelling and jumping, which is not a fantastic strategy.
I mean, just distract your opponent, get them scared. I don't know.
What do you mean, distract them by...
Scream by alerting them to your presence. Yeah,
Exactly.
I know, but
Distract them from what? From their surroundings by focusing their attention on me.
I suppose.
And then reveals to Crace that Crace then understands.
Why didn't you tell me?
Needed your fear, homeboy. Needed the sweat.
Well, then untie me. Yeah, but no, I actually did mean it also.
Yeah, that's
That was great!
Yeah.
That was so good! Because, yeah, he doesn't want to let Crace go.
go, no.
He's completely serious about all of that. Crace has two arguments to make. The first one is, then kill me.
Yeah. Go
Right?
on. Yeah. We need you, sorry.
Well, that's the second argument.
Yeah.
You actually need me. Because do you know if Erin's alive?
No, yeah.
If she isn't, how are you going to get out of here?
Yeah, you need him to fly Talon.
Talon's not going to listen to you.
No,
you know
definitely not John, yeah.
that. Yeah.
On the other hand, Talon's not going to stay on the planet.
Yeah, but it's not going to take you along with it necessarily.
Well,
I mean, you can imagine it from Talon's perspective. Like,
Yeah.
if John sort of rocks up and says, hey, yeah, I'm back. Somehow, the two people that you love most in the universe didn't make it, but I'm here now.
Yeah. Oh,
Right?
Yeah, that's not going to go down very well. Well, that would be an interesting episode if they ever went there.
Do you think if the situation had been different, John would have left Crace behind?
Ooh.
Or would have actually killed him?
Ooh, probably not actually killed him, might have left him behind.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, John doesn't seem to be like the cold-blooded killer type.
He's
No.
come far from season one, though.
True, but even then, I don't
Season
think...
one, he wouldn't have even left anyone behind. I
Oh,
don't
no,
think.
no, totally. I think he would have left him behind, but not killed him. So, let's see.
go with
the
I
other
think-
plot line again.
Yes,
I mean, we said
Rigel
we would...
and Stark, I think, because Aaron and Xalax are going to intersect with them shortly.
Right. Aaron brings Alex back to Talon.
Yes.
Now bound and captured. Xalax is like slowly slitting her own wrist to retrieve the knife that she's hiding inside her wrist.
That is way too big a knife to hide
I
inside
know.
your body.
Also, how do you keep a sharp knife inside your body without doing
with
damage?
a sheath inside your body. It's a difficult place to put it.
Yeah.
Right in between the tendons of one's wrist. She's using a very long thumbnail to sort of scratch in there. It seems like a handy thing to have.
Yeah.
But like a little razor would do it.
Yes.
Right? A much smaller cutting surface would do it that you can just retrieve.
She uses the knife to cut her bonds and then slice open Rigel.
There's another little bit in between. She takes the knife out, and then out of her thumb, there is something that she snorts.
Oh, yes.
And you see her
Pupils
eyes
go
go
like...
whoop.
And it seems like be some sort of power drug that, pain number, because later we see Erin try to bash her knee again, like she did successfully the first, and she just like, yeah, it's like, you kind of hear this thunk sound from the Foley department, and it's...
Yes, just hitting a gourd with a flannel.
And nothing happens, and she just looks down and goes like, nope, smacks her around, and then after that point, she's in control on Talon.
Yeah, poor Rigel. Did you get that he'd been stabbed?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, because...
No, the way he responded was fair.
Like, let me reiterate, I had not remembered this as one of the best episodes of Farscape that I've seen, and it totally is. Like, I remember the high concept ones. I noticed this even in my research. So I went on the Snurcher's Guide, and I read the visual companion book and the sort of unauthorized companion, what's it called? The Uncharted Territories that was actually sent to us by a listener. It was all about how the episode worked, and that it was not very nostalgic, and that there was these moments of sentimentality, and there was barely any background stuff, because everybody was totally into the story, and the incredible performances by Claudia Black and Linda Cropper. It was just top form. I was so glad to be able to see this again for the first time and just be blown away by what an incredible show this is. Okay, so.
Yeah, Rigel gets stabbed and...
imprisoned with Stark.
Yes.
Who has a really tender moment as Rigel's lying there dying. Now, it's sort of... I was wondering, if someone has been stabbed so badly, how are they still functioning? But he's an aquatic creature.
Yeah.
And so, for us, it's very important that our lungs are kept in vacuum. If you have a chest wound, your lungs deflate, but he doesn't have lungs, or he has some other sort of oxygenation system.
Yeah.
So actually having a wound in his chest cavity, where you can see his heart, which Stark remarks on.
You really do have 3 stomachs. The smallest little heart I've ever seen.
I thought it was a funny comment. It's like, oh, you actually do have 3 stomachs, which is kind of like, it could be biological, but it could also be like...
He's a little Grinch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Stark decides to help him. I actually thought that this moment was a bit sort of underserved, because we get... I mean, it's resolved and Rigel is saved.
Well, as we later learn, he actually dies there, which someone like Stark would know, but Stark literally sews him back up and brings him back.
But we never get to see that.
No.
That would have been a really interesting... If there had been another, 7 minutes longer this episode,
yes,
to actually see the sewing up. And he does a terrible job of it, does Stark.
He literally sews his clothes back into the wound. And
What?
But apparently with the healing vines, and it all comes out fine in the end.
Okay, but this is some serious science fiction bullshit, because that is not something that you can do. I recall in the early days of field medicine for firearms, that a part of a surgeon's duty was to root around in the bullet wound for all the bits of cloth and then sort of try and piece them together, because if you've got all the threads, then the wound can heal, and if you don't, then that is bad news.
Which is why silk shirts were also very popular with Mongols, because apparently they got drawn into the wound by arrows. They were kind of strong enough that an arrow wouldn't actually pierce the silk, but it would kind of get drawn in, and you can just kind of pull it over. You'd still be hurt. You'd still be cut.
You'd still have an arrow in your...
wounded, but it would be relatively easy to pull out, and the material would stick together and not...
And the wound wouldn't be contaminated with fibers that prevent healing and promote infection.
Yep.
Huh. So Aaron and Stark are by this time tied up. Aaron doesn't have a handy wrist blade.
No.
But Rigel awakes and is motivated to come over and help them, despite the fact that he's in a bad way.
I need bed rest for at least the next 50 years.
A really reasonable request.
Yeah. Can I sleep for 2 days?
Yeah. If I was injured, I would say, give me a week, give me 2 weeks, whatever.
But no, he comes over. He does actually cut... Aaron's bonds.
A different knife than is used on the vines, by the way. I think this is Dargo's bris knife.
Oh, no, that's different. That looks...
You say that every time. He's got 2 different knives. Which one is different?
I don't know. They both are. She immediately runs off, leaves Stark tied up, who then goes and Rigel's it doesn't get resolved on screen, but it's kind of
Rigel is really ungrateful.
Yes, he is. Well, yes, he is, but he's also kind of grumpy, and he did just got cut up.
I like how you're on Team Rigel. Rigel needs people on his team.
For the first time, yes, I am on team.
The first time.
I mean, most of the time I'm against Rigel, but dude got stabbed, It's what...
I want to follow this thread, because they do have a come down scene at the end, Rigel and Stark, where Stark pulls out the last of the stitches,
which looks surprisingly clean.
Yeah. Okay. So apparently, maybe a combination of PK medicine and Leviathan technology and restorative vines. But then he also tells Rigel, "No, you were dead for a little while. I had to get in there and pull you back. And while I was in there,
I met with Zan.
Zan?
Yes.
That's why you stitched the frilling tunic to my chest. You were busy hallucinating."
She looked contented.
She was leading a prayer, and she is watching over us, which seems to really disconcert Rigel. Rigel seems to be not too happy that he's being watched by Zan.
And then he diffuses the situation by farting.
Yes.
And giving a little wink.
Yes, I didn't really... Well, yes. I mean, the Holy Spirit was leaving him or something like that.
I saw in one of the chats from the sci-fi chat message board back in the day, where they got to talk to the puppeteering team. The puppeteering team was very terse and very sort of two-word answers.
Mm-hmm.
Was it complicated to make him wink? We've never seen him wink before. No, there's just a slider for that. Just flip a switch.
Yeah.
You just don't flip both switches. Next question. Real professionals.
Makes sense, yeah.
But the final confrontation between Aaron and Xalax is much more fraught.
I mean, Xalax is, at this point, lobotomizing Talon, essentially.
High Command could never have anticipated that their hybrid genetic would evolve so successfully.
What are you doing?
Can't fire the ship up while he still has the capacity for independent thought.
You're severing his higher functions.
After which I can fly him home manually. Tex is standing by to bring him back to life, once he's got a control collar on.
Talon is not like other Leviathans. He will die before accepting a control collar.
And I was just sitting there wondering, why doesn't Erin use her hand of friendship, her control that she has with Talon?
She took it out.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. I must have missed that.
She took it out at the end of Green-Eyed Monster.
Oh, okay.
And that was sort of part of her rejection and the evolution of her relationship with Talon.
Okay.
It was a temporary instrument anyway.
Right.
She kicks Xalax in the wounded knee, and then, that didn't help. Talon activate internal, but
she gets
cut
kicked
off.
Yeah.
If Talon could even hear her.
Because he was still asleep at that point, yeah. Because the plan is that she's pretty much going to, cut out most of his neurocluster, or at least disable it, then manually fly the ship back and, then restore Talon after he's been fitted with a control collar.
Because Talon is the primary target.
Yeah.
Krace is secondary. They really want Talon. I mean, she's impressed as well. She almost quotes Krace as Kal Tanaga Chivoko. Just High Command could never have imagined that their splicing would work so well. This is a miracle that they could use, considering what we learned about the state of the Cold War with the Scarans.
Yes, there's the Cold War about to heat up.
I'm just thinking about that now. That is probably the situation, that they've got a lot invested in the wormhole weapon program.
Yeah.
But if that doesn't work, having self-reproducing gunships of Talon's capability,
that would be nice.
With Peacekeeper attitude already.
Although we don't know how long it would take. I mean, it would still take several years to get a number of them going and get them big enough.
Yeah, Talon is small compared to Moya still.
But then again, big gun.
Actually, his gestation was fairly quick. They've Got a Secret was episode 10.
Yeah.
And he was born in episode 1920.
Although we are told that the gestation was put on hold by whatever the control device was that
the implantation, I think the word was.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was what's it called, fertilization,
right,
or how that works for them.
I'm afraid pilots are not privy to any special knowledge regarding the gestation cycle of Leviathans.
I think we're supposed to assume that there was no zygote until Dargo kicked that panel.
Well, no, because later in the same episode, they already see a ship which is a few meters across at that point, I suppose. It was hard to make out the size. In my perception, it was about the size of a car, I would have said.
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
I mean, it might have been a train size or small, who knows. But so you're thinking that Moya was already pregnant, but the pregnancy was halted so that there would be been a zygote or an embryo?
Right, yes, that's how it felt to me.
That seems handy.
Yeah.
To be able to just pause a pregnancy?
There's a lot of species who can do it.
Really?
Yeah, kangaroos and I think stoats as well, or there's several kinds of mustelids. They just go they're pregnant for quite a long time, but the embryonal development is fairly short. It's just that they just kind of put it on hold for a couple of months and then
activated when the circumstances are right. So you think that that's what the sort of catalyst was for, to stimulate the continuation of zygotic development?
Either stop it or either halt it, or Dargo kicks over this thing and then suddenly things start moving, and if he either puts something in place or he takes something out, one or the other.
Seems like something that the Peacekeepers would be able to value.
Yeah, so we can do this. We can plan this whenever we want it to. We know the time frame that's going to work.
The hard part's been done.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of weird that they would still have a ship like Moya in which they're doing such an experiment. Then we're just using it as a prison ship in the meantime. And
Well, I think that's explained by The Way We Weren't, because Velarek has sabotaged Moya, so they think she's failed.
Oh,
and then it just hasn't worked at all.
That's right, yeah. That leads to the fact that there might be a block in there that Velarek put in there to make it look like the plan failed.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Ah, look at us go! But yeah, the confrontation between Eren and Xalax, and like Eren appealing to Xalax's humanity in a few ways.
Look at what you are doing. You are butchering this magnificent creature in its sleep. When it wakes, it will be a slave, and there is no guarantee it will survive the procedure.
But she cannot reach Xalax.
No, until the point that Xalax ends up accidentally viewing that video again of her visiting Eren.
Yeah, because it happens to be lying about on that table that's in that room that we don't know what it is.
Yeah, and she reacts rather aggressively to it.
She smashes the table that she just spent some time fixing, I
noticed.
Right,
yeah, well, angry responses. We've all had emotional responses to bad news or good news or whatever you want to call it.
She is just fiercely rejecting it, and Eren is not arriving. So Eren's tried meeting her on a level of cynicism, like they start off quite cynical toward one another. Xalax is even dismissive. Oh, because you miss your mummy.
Right, yes.
And then Eren sort of riposts with, hey, you were actually wounded by that. You can pretend to be all cynical about it, but that's bullshit. You loved Talon, you're traumatized, and I'm your daughter.
Yeah.
But even when Xalax is kind of honest about her feelings, she is an extremely bitter woman who the best outcome, that's why I talked earlier about that one little throwaway line, like the best outcome that she wanted was that Eren wanted to return and that she could bring her back and make a case for her and maybe get her reinstated as an officer, and then they could be peacekeepers together and then just never talk about any of the...
Eren's like, nope, sorry, being corrupted too much. I see the peacekeepers for what they are now, I suppose. There's a degree of that as well, even though she still has some...
old habits,
Old habits and reminiscing towards... Like, I mean, she sees a lot of good things about the way they do things as well. But yeah, she's done with the peacekeepers.
Yeah.
So what I don't understand is why Xalax goes back to her prowler. I mean, she goes to pick up a gun, but there's guns around. Why does she have to go back to her prowler to go get a gun?
That's a good point. Because she leaves Talon with everybody tied up, she thinks, to return to her prowler and maybe to report in. That's the only thing I can imagine. I'm reaching here because I don't...
We see her taking a gun out of the cockpit and then closing the cockpit again and then heading on back.
Oh, yes, because all the weapons that they fired... Yes, because of mist in this Chakan vapor in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
What the hell's wrong with this gun?
Don't know.
Maybe the Chakan mist is ruining the pulse deploy.
And that clogs weapons after they've been fired for a few times. Like you saw that during the firefight, that they used their pulse rifles, and then it jammed, and they had to drop the rifle and go to pistols.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure why that was happening.
Where Grace goes, pistols akimbo, which is really
Yes, that
really
was a fantastic scene.
But I think like all of these weapons are spent, so it kind of makes sense that if you've got 3 prisoners on board, then you want a fresh weapon. So maybe that's just
I must have missed the point where they talk about this.
I'm with you. I didn't even question it. So
it didn't come clear to me why they were constantly swapping guns. I mean, it kind of looked cool, but we've never seen a reload before, other than when it was significant for the story.
Yeah, true.
So she goes out, goes get her weapon, which puts her back outside, allowing her to run into John and Crace.
John, Crace, Eren, they pile on Xalax. Oh, and there's a Kalarta as well. One of them...
Oh, yeah, one of them actually survived.
Still had their spare heart.
Yeah, tracks John and Crace again.
But they are overcome.
Yeah, there's a bit of fighting sequence. The Kalarta gets shoved into the universe's butthole, at least with their face. Yeah.
They suffocate him in Old Faithful's fumes. Yeah.
And
farted to death.
Yes, and then we have to deal with Eren and her mother.
This was fascinating. Eren is ready to take the shot, and John has Xalax pinned down and is holding him down and protecting her from Eren's fire.
Yeah, because you're not going to kill your own mother.
And he goes through a few cycles as well.
First, it's established that she is not going to relent, that she will take everybody back, and that nothing they can say or do is going to sway her from her mission. And therefore, the only way you can get me off your back is to kill me. That's essentially what she says.
I mean, the fact that she even says it.
What do you expect me to lie? To beg for my life?
And she does it in that taunting voice. But I was just captivated by the idea that this is how she's expressing her love for Aaron. I'm going to make this choice easy for my daughter. I mean, it's really fucked up.
Yeah.
But that's what I was feeling in this moment. Like, why would she do that? Why would she not seize every advantage? Why would she not play on Aaron's sympathy? The fact that she's not doing that is so generous.
Yeah, okay.
Toward Aaron.
Yeah, no, I can see that.
I'm even getting emotional about it right now. But just the fact that someone who is so indoctrinated still has this idea, I don't want this to be harder for my daughter than it has to be.
She's super callous and like, comes off as taunting almost to make it do or say anything to make it easier. Yeah, I hadn't considered that.
Like, I don't know if that was what Linda Cropper was going for, but I really felt that this time around.
So yes, John leads Aaron off and leaves Grace to do the deed.
Yeah, because Grace agrees with Aaron. Like
Aaron, yeah. Now,
she's right.
Of course, now
we
hear some shots in the background, so did he or didn't he?
I want to hear from you about this because I thought it was really well done. It was edited. There was some slow motion. You saw several close-ups of Xalax and Grace.
There was actually a few flashy points and like in the slow motion where I kind of figured like, did it just happen there? And then and then a little bit later, there's the blaster fire shots, and like, oh no, that's when it's supposed to happen. It's like he shoots quite a few times.
Those flashes are, well, they're not very good shots. Those peacekeepers we've seen.
I mean, they're not stormtroopers, but yeah. So the question is, did he or didn't he?
The flashes that you saw were part of the sort of flashbacks that Aaron was having.
Yeah,
like she was flashing back to that scene.
Yeah.
And this absolutely broke me. She turned around and she wanted to go back, and she yelled no just before she heard the blast. And Crichton had to hold her because even though it was her idea, as she was walking away, she wanted it not to be true, and just the heartbreak. But sorry, you were saying about clearly she's dead, right? Like we've heard the gunshots and we know that she's dead.
You're gonna have to offer me more than even odds to get me to put some fun bucks on that.
Okay, I'm actually not going to do this with you. But this was a really tricky situation within the fandom. It was very split, and you'd think that this would be an easy bet to make. That a character like that dying off screen, that doesn't seem likely.
Yeah.
Then again, the way that Zahn's death was handled.
Yeah.
Where it was sort of teased. And there was, is she coming back? Because you saw the orange glow at the end. And
Zahn peeking in through the window.
Yes, in the mirror.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a lot of official statements. And they'd been kind of cheeky with their communication to fans before anyway.
Right.
So at this time, there was still a lot of people in the fandom who were thinking that
Zahn's
Zahn was coming back.
Yeah.
And there were also those who were realizing that she wasn't. That was the end for Virginia Hay. And like, hey, Farscape can actually kill off characters as well.
Yeah.
So what the fuck is this?
Yes. Is this
Are we being teased with? We've been teased before.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, no, but that's why, like, you just tell me how you feel. What do you think is going to happen with... did she die or didn't she?
Oh, I mean...
No, you don't have to be strategic about it.
No,
There's no points.
I'm not thinking.
Right?
I'm just like trying to think how it was coded. Like it
Right.
it wasn't a single shot. It was multiple shots, and we never get to see Grace conscious again, because the next time we see Grace, he is mind merging with Talon.
Yeah.
So yeah, we don't know what happened there. Did they find him? Did they have to drag Grace back? Did he suddenly pass out? What happened there? Why is Grace suddenly injured?
No. I can tell you that because he is helping Talon heal.
Right.
By copying his engrams, whatever that means, to help replace the severed higher functions.
Right.
So he would have made it, like, I'm pretty sure.
But is there a transfer, or is Grace still going to be whole Grace and like just part of Grace in Talon? Or is it a move or a copy?
I think it's a copy, but it's rather poorly described because Crichton is worried. Okay, so a chunk of Grace's psyche is going to live in Talon.
Yeah,
that seems a little bit weird.
No, that's what I was wondering about. But yeah,
But yes, I think that's the case. So he would have made it to Talon under his own power and then plugged himself in to help Talon heal.
Yes. Okay, so I think he did kill her, and if it comes back later, then like. Oh, it's going to be another scene between John and Grace, and it's like, you lied, and it's like you were like being a connivous little bastard again. On the other hand, I know that like Grace also knows that she will be coming for them.
Yeah, right.
So he has little motivation to not kill her. He stands almost nothing to gain from sparing her, as far as I can tell. So I think he killed her.
That is where I landed as well. Yep. So we'll see how things turn out. No, but you're entirely valid, and I don't want you to put any points on that. Like, I was just really curious about your perspective.
Like I said, like you'd have to offer me significantly better than even odds for me to put points on the fact that he didn't kill her.
Hey, you are not hurting for points at this at this time. You can be pretty generous.
We have a very touching scene between John and Erin to round off the episode.
Yeah, it's a beautiful shot. It's just their faces with a bit of Talon's red sort of control lights around them. And they're just...
Yeah, he's basically comforting her. He's like helping her, process the loss of her mother.
I thought it was such a good scene because it starts off with her saying, hey, we should probably get some sleep.
Or not.
And then there's like they almost kiss, but John leaves it entirely to her. He kind of makes himself available, but leaves it to her whether or not she actually wants to kiss him. He's really there for her.
Because he realizes like she's... Okay, what do you need? Do you need to deny and repress it? Or do you need to talk about it? Because either way, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to make you choose.
You don't have to wait up for me if you don't want to.
No, I don't mind.
It's entirely go with the flow.
My Xalax was my last connection to the Peacekeepers. All my ties to them are now completely severed.
And she needs to cry.
She does.
And she trusts him enough to do that. Like, that is...
Yeah, that's a very good moment between them.
I'm literally choking up here. Like, this is... Yeah, I know. This...
It's a very touching scene.
I've talked about it before, this sort of rare privilege of coming back to a series that I love and discovering an episode that I don't remember being a masterpiece and finding that it is. And it really got to me. So I'm delighted that I got to share it with you.
Yeah, it was a very good episode. But we do have to talk.
Yes, so third button.
She gives me a Woody.
She gives you the willies.
Yeah.
It's fun to hear them, isn't it?
It is. Okay, so I'll start with the willies first.
Yes.
So my original was going to be what I thought was going to be the B plot between Stark and Rigel, like chopping away the vines which were like suddenly growing in Talon. Because I was like, that kind of felt weird. It like also felt like something that didn't go anywhere. Like suddenly there are vines which need to be removed, or maybe they don't need to be removed, or we can rip for it. But it seemed entirely superfluous just to keep Stark and Rigel in the picture.
Occupied, yeah.
And then that went a completely different way. So I guess it's going to have to go to the soundstage forest.
Oh.
I know.
Okay, is there anything in particular, like what are the, like make your list of things that you disliked about the soundstage forest?
The fact that it was so obviously a soundstage forest. Okay. It's like the flat floor with the wood chips on it, and it like... Yeah, it just didn't feel...
I've got a question. How does that compare to Krull, where they had exactly the same thing with the swamp?
Yes.
Which was also just cork
At least they
chips.
put a little bit more terrain features in there. I mean, here... like
they also had more staff drownings on the set because of mislabeled quicksand.
Yeah, people like falling in. No, I agree with that. But, okay, my Woody... I'll just go to that. I think it goes to the aliens. I like those.
The Calatas.
I like them. They look good.
Oh, pina coladas!
I like their, I don't know, their faces, their mouth, the way they moved. Yes, I think they were
Dave Elsey would be pleased to hear that. Because I read in the Creatures of Farscape book, which is, once again, thanks to our Patreon subscribers, Dave Elsey was not particularly happy with how it came out. Like, they tried to make them, like, they're 7 feet tall, but you can't really tell that. And he felt that they were shown too much, and they were like lit too plainly. Dave's wife, Lou Elsey, she is the creature costumer.
Yeah.
So she decided on this sort of Egyptian kind of vibe.
Yes, it felt a little bit Stargate-y, They had their like those head drapery type things. Yep. Yeah, no,
and the sort of neck pieces.
I can see that.
All of them to hide zippers and seams.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, they were. I'm with you. I thought they were really interesting creatures. Like, they're so skinny.
Yes.
Thomas Holsgrove is very, very skinny.
Which makes sense if you come from a low-gravity world.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Yes.
I mean, much like Doug Jones, a lot of these sort of creature performers, they tend to be extremely muscular, extremely skinny people with high heat tolerance.
Because it's easy to add stuff, and it's very hard to take stuff away. And, like, if you're a skinny bastard, then you have more heat tolerance than, people who are a little bit more... have a little more natural padding.
Is that true? Because I am... the years have added some padding here and there, but I'm generally like of a very sort of... I'm a slender reed compared to a lot of the members of my family, and I don't have a lot of like temperature control.
But you have this special ability that you have like the heat resistance of a Irishman and the cold resistance of an Indonesian. So
yes, I am trapped in a nightmare world where the two sides of my ancestry are at war like I am my own sort of war over the thermostat.
Yes.
I am struggling to find Willies and Woodies. I really am. It's never been more difficult than here.
Oh, wow.
I think maybe my Willie goes to Stark and the Vines because that...
I can feel that.
So much work for Paul Goddard to sort of make it feel like these were in the way. And that had a very high sort of Doctor Who kind of atmosphere to it. Like, we're clearly trying. Are we trying hard enough to convince you? Are you convinced yet?
Probably not, yeah.
I'll try a little harder. But at the same time, that also gets my Woody because I love like people who throw themselves into the role and the job so much. Paul Goddard tried to make it fun, and it was. Everybody brought their A game. I really liked The Jungle because I looked at this and I have some experience as a photographer and trying to create these environments, and just the effort of trying to pull this off on a television budget in Australia in 8 days is astonishing. But okay, my Woody has to go to Aaron and Xalax.
Their interaction.
Yep. Oh no, I can't. I don't even know whether I can choose between the characters and the actors because Linda Cropper and Claudia Black did amazing as well. I'm out of... Okay, I'm going to do this again. I think I've done it once before. I'm going to try and pick a Willy and a Woody just as random.
It's going to be Rigel getting stitched up.
No, apparently my Woody is John discovering the fart KY and just... and smearing that over
I mean, that
face.
was an interesting moment. I can see how John and Grace in a loop pit. Yeah, I can see how that would get your Woody.
Cover your private bits.
And my Willy is a... Oh, possibly, like, it's one of the broken sheaves. I'm going to slide down. Oh, apparently my Woody is also a Crichton and Crace. It's where he stops Crace and sort of bends him backwards, and then he does his fun yelp.
Oh,
it's apparently my Willy.
Okay, yeah, okay. Fair enough.
Thank you so much to the gods of randomness.
and
that's the story so far. You got the sound effect?
No, sorry, yes.
Yeah, no, I love it.
Please join us next week for episode 311, Incubator, where the quest for wormhole technology leads Scorpius to reveal his horrific past to Crichton. Ooh. Oh my, I wonder if that's Scorpius or Harvey.
Ooh. You can find us at SoFarscape on Facebook and Twitter. You can go to sofarscape.com/links. I actually built it.
Yes.
Yeah, and there you can find the links where you can submit your synopses. You can still use more for the rest of Season 3. Thank you so much for showing up in droves. They're so much fun, and we love reading them. You can also submit fanfics if you have an idea for a fanfiction that you would like to read.
Make sure that they're safe for K.
Yes, so no further than Relativity. Keep the spoilers kind of light. And you can also help support us at sofarscape.com/support. I'm Kaki.
I'm Kay.
So Farscape, so good.